Hi, this is Eric, and it is time for another design exercise. Today it is Zen Counting, an exercise that comes from the rules we break. Zen Counting is a game. It's a game that you play and then discuss. It's a very meditative game, and it is great as a warm-up exercise and can be used in a bunch of other ways that I will talk about in a bit. Let's take a look at what you learn and what you need. So we're going to learn a lot from Zen Counting. You learn about experience design, designing sort of sensory, let's say, quote unquote, immersive experiences for people. You also learn about cooperative play. A lot of times we are looking for types of play and games that are not traditional competitive games. And also designing for people and how people interact together within a system. You need 3 or more players. It works with much larger groups as well, just fine. And it's a pretty short exercise, just about 10 minutes. Okay, I am going to go through the steps of Zen Counting. And as you can see, it's pretty straightforward, the steps of what's going to happen. So let's start with the first step, settling into place. So for this game, you want to have people in a kind of relaxed state, right? If you can do this with about 10 or 12 people, it works perfectly well. If you have more than that, maybe you want to split into groups. Again, 3 or more is fine for this game. This is also a good game if you want to call people up from the audience and sort of do a demonstration in front of a larger group. But it's a very experiential game, so if everyone can play, that's definitely better for Zen Counting. So when I was taught this game, I was told that people should lie down on the floor and specifically lie down in not a regular arrangement, so that they're not in a circle, they're not all together, they're a little bit scattered, near enough so you can hear each other. Now, of course, you may not have a group where people are comfortable, or a situation where people are comfortable laying down on the floor, which is totally fine. And actually, I've played this game with people just standing in a line, so the arrangement doesn't matter that much. But if you can have people get comfortable and put themselves in a situation where they're maybe not in a regular arrangement, and it works best if everyone is sort of quiet and relaxed, and you want to get everyone comfortable. So that's just the first step, is settling into place. If you have multiple groups, maybe separate them a little bit so that the noise is not going to be distracting each other. Okay, then explaining how to play. So this is usually how I explain Zen Counting. Now, when the game starts, everyone is going to close their eyes. You don't have to do that right away, but as soon as the game starts, you want to close your eyes. And then the first person who feels so moved to begin the game this time around begins by saying a number, the first number, the number 1. So someone is going to say the number 1, then somebody else is going to say the number 2, and number 3, and so on. It's called Zen Counting, and yes, you count up from 1. So that's basically how you play. There are a couple of special rules that you need to understand to play. One is that you can't say a number twice in a row. So if somebody says the number 3, that same person can't say the number 4. Someone else has to say a different number, the number 4, before they can say 5. And so basically that keeps one person from saying a bunch of numbers in a row. The second rule is that if 2 people say a number at the same time, if they even overlap a little bit, then the whole group has to start over again from 1. And the goal of the game is to see how high you can count. So it's really a simple game. That's all there is to it. And before we start, I usually like to ask people to take a few deep breaths together, even the audience if they're watching. So just to breathe in and breathe out. Just to relax. Ooh, actually, I'm feeling a little bit more relaxed from breathing. One more time. In. And breathe out. Okay. So once you've got everyone settled, relaxed, you've explained how to play, then it's time to actually play the game. Let them play a few times. Now, it's hard for me to demonstrate exactly by myself here what it's like, but I think you can probably imagine. Whoever feels so moved, we'll start. They've all closed their eyes. Someone's going to start, and with number 1, and then 2, there might be a silence. While people are waiting, someone else says 3, or people say the same number together and have to start over again. Now, this game, interestingly, varies considerably in terms of how it goes. Sometimes a group will just keep on getting caught at those early numbers, 2, 3, and 4, again and again. Other times they might get up quite high quite quickly. Sometimes groups might reach a pattern, maybe 3 people sort of circulating amongst themselves, and then they might break the pattern just to challenge themselves. All of this is good. You want to definitely let them experience the game, encourage them to see if they can do better. If groups are having a lot of trouble, that's totally fine. Celebrate whatever number they're getting to. It's really all good in Zen Counting. And so let everyone play a few times, and then it's time to share and discuss. This game is so experiential, you don't necessarily need a huge amount of discussion, but there is a lot that you can talk about in terms of how the game works. So here are some things that I like to talk about with Zen Counting. First, I think you want people to share their experience. So what happened? Ask people what their experience of the game was. For some people, it might be about meditative relaxation, and for others, it might be actually quite intense and have a lot of anxiety where you were trying not to say a number at the same time as somebody else. Others might just have had fun and enjoy what they're doing or what other people are doing. So I think one of the interesting things about Zen Counting is that it's such a simple game. It's such an elemental kind of design, but yet it still accommodates such a wide range of experiences. It produces a lot of different emotions, all happening literally simultaneously within the same game. And you can also talk about the design of the game and why that happens and what makes it work. For example, as I mentioned, often we're looking for play patterns or types of games or systems that are not a traditional head-to-head sort of combative contest, right? Zen Counting is effortlessly collaborative. It's challenging, but you're really working with everybody else in this way of counting up, and the game structure naturally builds tension as you go, because the higher you get, the more is at stake in not saying the right number and having everybody start over. The game accommodates so many different play styles, right? You can actually be quite a wallflower and hardly say anything or not say anything at all and still be a player of the game, or you can be very, very assertive. I once was playing with a group, and there was quite a young player, and they were very eager to count as much as they could. So they literally were jumping in every other number. So it's really interesting to me that, again, such a simple and elemental game has so many different ways and styles to play. The other thing about the design is that it's so sensorially immersive, right? It really forces you to listen to the silences. The silences become charged with meaning, and it's quite musical in that sense. It's almost like a piece of music where as much meaning is carried by the spaces between the notes, between the counts, becomes sort of pregnant with meaning and emotional significance. So I think that experientially, again, even for such a simple game, it's really quite a deep and can be quite a profound experience. And it's so interesting to talk about how the design works that way, the particular characteristics of the design that force you to collaborate and listen to the silences. It's also a really interesting design because this is a game that isn't just something to play for fun, but you can use in different ways. For example, I often use it as a kind of creative warm-up exercise. It's a very simple game and can get people participating quickly, and it sort of attunes you to each other, right? So maybe for a brainstorming session or a larger discussion, playing Zen Counting kind of orients you cognitively and socially, and it gets you listening, actively listening to other people. It's also a game that you can use as a design analysis, right? If you're looking at different forms of social play or collaborative play, you might include Zen Counting in a whole series of games about what it is that about a particular game design that results in a particular social experience or an emotional experience. So I think that Zen Counting is also interesting because it's a game that is sort of a tool that can be used in a bunch of different contexts for a bunch of different purposes. Lastly, I want to say that Zen Counting works really well remotely. You obviously can't be lying around on the floor with each other, but you can have the participants close their eyes and just try and count up. Often the lag, if you're playing remotely on video, makes it even harder. It makes it even more likely that two people might overlap. And so it makes it an even more challenging game. For Zen Counting, I want to thank Bernie DeKoven, from whom I first learned about this game. It appears in his book, The Infinite Playground. And it's also in the Rules We Break. If I can find it in here, yes, here it is, Zen Counting. As you can see, this is quite a short one, a few things to discuss, but a very, very straightforward game. As always, I would love to hear how it went, how people played the game, how you were able to use Zen Counting in a particular context, if you do manage to play it. And that's it. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.